Recent global tensions, fueled by President Biden's approval of long-range missiles for Ukraine, have sparked fears of nuclear conflict. In response, Putin lowered the threshold for using nuclear weapons, allowing for their deployment against conventional missile strikes, especially if backed by nuclear powers. Despite his threatening rhetoric and military demonstrations, Russia's nuclear arsenal may not be as powerful as it appears. Experts argue that the true operational capability of Russia's nuclear forces is questionable. Let's explore why these nuclear threats might not hold as much weight as they seem. Russia's nuclear arsenal. Numbers don't tell the whole story. On paper, Russia's nuclear arsenal seems formidable, with 5,580 warheads, which accounts for nearly 46% of the global stockpile. When compared to the United States, which possesses 5,748 out of the 12,100 warheads worldwide, it may seem that Russia and the US are nearly equal in nuclear power. However, these numbers only tell part of the story. In reality, many of Russia's nuclear weapons are outdated relics from the Soviet era, poorly maintained, and in various stages of disrepair. Prior to the invasion of Ukraine, Russia was viewed as the world's second most powerful military force, just behind the US. However, the ongoing conflict has exposed the significant weaknesses within Russia's military, including inefficiencies, outdated technology, and poor logistical support. These same problems extend to Russia's nuclear forces. Despite the substantial number of warheads, a large portion of them are aging, with limited modernization and maintenance efforts. This means that Russia's nuclear capabilities, while large in number, may not be as reliable or effective as their sheer size suggests. Many of these warheads could be unusable, and their operational readiness is questionable, especially when compared to the advanced, modernized nuclear arsenals of the US and NATO. Thus, while Russia may boast impressive numbers, the reality is that its nuclear strength is far weaker than it appears. Aging nuclear stockpile and the lack of maintenance. A closer look at Russia's nuclear stockpile exposes a troubling truth. Many of its warheads are outdated, decommissioned, and no longer fit for active use. According to the Federation of American Scientists, over 1,200 of Russia's nuclear warheads have already been retired, awaiting dismantlement. While these warheads are still counted as part of Russia's total arsenal, they are entirely ineffective in a conflict situation. Moreover, Russia's nuclear infrastructure has suffered from neglect, with minimal efforts to modernize or update critical systems. This systemic neglect is rooted in deep-seated corruption within Russia, where funds meant for the upkeep and maintenance of vital military assets are frequently diverted for other purposes. As a result, the remaining nuclear warheads and infrastructure that Russia touts are far less reliable than they might seem. The ongoing corruption and mismanagement have not only weakened Russia's conventional forces, but have also severely compromised the operational readiness of its nuclear weapons, leaving them more symbolic than strategically useful. In essence, Russia's nuclear strength has become an illusion, undermined by poor maintenance, outdated technology, and systemic inefficiency. The corruption problem and its impact on Russia's nuclear program. At the core of Russia's nuclear issues is the deep-rooted corruption that has plagued the military for decades. This corruption has meant that the necessary resources for proper nuclear maintenance have often been siphoned off, leaving gaps in the nation's defense infrastructure. For instance, tritium, a vital component of nuclear warheads, needs to be replaced regularly as it decays over time. Replacing tritium is a costly process, with each replacement costing between $30,000 to $200,000. Given the relatively low pay of Russian military personnel, the temptation to pocket this money is high, leading to improper replacement of critical components. But the most worrying aspect of this issue is the lack of testing. Russia has not tested its nuclear weapons in over 3 decades. In the nuclear world, testing is crucial to verify the functionality and reliability of warheads. With no recent tests, there is no way of knowing whether Russia's aging arsenal will actually work as intended in a real conflict. This neglect highlights the weaknesses in Russia's nuclear program and raises serious concerns about its true operational capability. Financial struggles and Russia's nuclear modernization challenges. In 2021, the U.S. spent approximately $50 billion on maintaining its nuclear arsenal, ensuring that its weapons remain reliable and modern. Russia, on the other hand, spent over $65 billion on its entire military budget, which included its nuclear forces, but also covered the Army, Navy, Air Force, and other military branches. Even with a large defense budget, Russia struggles to modernize and maintain its nuclear arsenal due to a lack of resources. The Russian government's current defense budget is set to increase significantly, with a projected $126 billion in military spending for 2025. However, this budget has to cover the entire military, including the costs of the ongoing war in Ukraine. As a result, resources for modernizing and maintaining Russia's nuclear arsenal will likely be minimal. The disparity between Russian and U.S. nuclear spending underscores the difference in capabilities, with the U.S. able to maintain and modernize its nuclear weapons far more effectively than Russia. The illusion of nuclear superiority, Russia's declining nuclear power. Despite Russia's persistent claims of nuclear dominance, much of its nuclear stockpile is outdated, decommissioned, or inoperable, a result of decades of neglect, corruption, and underfunding. The global perception of Russia's nuclear power is still largely shaped by its Soviet-era legacy, which featured awe-inspiring displays like the Tsar Bomba. This bomb, detonated with a staggering 50 megaton yield, was meant to showcase Soviet strength, but proved impractical due to its enormous size and weight, making it unsuitable for real military use. Today, many of Russia's nuclear weapons suffer from similar obsolescence, plagued by outdated technology and lack of modern updates. Though Russia still possesses some powerful weapons, their reliability is highly questionable, leaving them far less effective in the modern world. Moreover, the advancement of missile defense systems globally and evolving military technologies have rendered these aging weapons increasingly ineffective, meaning Russia's nuclear threats may not carry the same weight they once did. The lack of action and the reality of nuclear threats. Despite Russia's frequent nuclear threats, the reality is that it has never followed through on any of them. Over the years, Putin has repeatedly engaged in nuclear posturing, making bold threats to deter Western support for Ukraine, but has not taken any concrete action. This stands in stark contrast to the Cold War era, when nuclear tests were routine and the threat of nuclear war was a powerful tool in international diplomacy. Putin's rhetoric has been designed to create fear and manipulate international policy, particularly to limit Western involvement in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. However, despite the alarming language, there is no substantial evidence to suggest that Russia is truly prepared to risk a nuclear war. The catastrophic consequences of such an action, total annihilation and global retaliation, remain a significant deterrent for Russia. Putin's use of nuclear threats, therefore, seems more like an attempt to maintain leverage rather than a genuine strategy for military escalation. As the world has learned over time, the threat of nuclear weapons without action is merely a bluff to advance political goals. The reality of mutually assured destruction. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction was central to Cold War-era nuclear strategy. It suggested that no side would initiate a nuclear conflict, as both would face total destruction. In the modern world, this concept still holds, but the balance has shifted. While Russia still possesses a large number of nuclear weapons, the US and NATO's capabilities far outweigh them. If Russia were to initiate a nuclear strike, the likely result would be its own destruction. A single nuclear exchange would trigger a massive retaliatory response, and Russia would not be able to sustain a prolonged nuclear conflict. Even if Russia were to use tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine, the strategic advantages would be minimal. Conventional weapons are already capable of causing widespread destruction without the long-term environmental consequences of a nuclear strike. A nuclear strike would not only endanger Ukrainian civilians, but would also put Russian troops at risk due to the contamination from radiation. Thanks for watching, folks. Now that we've uncovered the truth behind Russia's nuclear arsenal and its not-so-nuclear capabilities, we can all breathe a little easier for now. Remember, Putin's threats are like that one uncle who talks a big game at family dinners, but never follows through. Hit like, subscribe, and share before he gets any funny ideas.